when we talk about solving equations with fractions in them, there are some tips to make it a little bit easier. Okay? We won't get to those tips. Those tips are on the front of your page. We won't get to those until later, though. So turn to the back of your page. If I have y minus 2/3 equals 5/12, in order to solve for y, I have to do the opposite. It's subtracting, so I need to add. I'm going to add 2/3 to both sides. The only issue is it's a fraction. So what do I have to add fractions? A common denominator. Between 3 and 12, what's my common denominator going to be? 12.
So you don't then add the 2/3 to each side and then get the common denominator you get it first?
I don't know that they do add it. They move it over, and then you get your common denominator.
Okay, that's what I.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all right. I wasn't sure how to answer that question because really it could be done either way.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to add 2/3 to both sides. When we add 2/3 to our other side, it becomes a number, which is 8/12. When I do that, my 2/3 over here cancel out, leaving me with just y on the left-hand side of my equal sign. This becomes 5 plus 8 is 13. So I have 13/12.
Do we?
Yep. I can't leave it as 13/12 because 13 is bigger than 12. So that becomes... Oh, geez. How many times will 12 go into 13? Once. With how many left over? 1 and 1/12. Nope, they didn't change it. Next. Do what? Wait, what?
Wait, I'm so confused.
Okay. Well, what was the answer?
1 and 1/12.
1 and 1/12.
Because this 13/12 is improper, so we can say that 12. Ooh. Why is it not writing? Goes into 13 one time with 1 left over, so it's 1 and 1/12. That's a really good idea. That's why I give you these notes to fill out, so you can write everything that's up here. Valeria, what can I help you with?
Okay, so you have to move the 2/3.
Uh-huh.
And add it, and then put the y minus it. But then, do we even have to put those because we're gonna have to cross them out because they're both the same number?
Right. These just get crossed out. Yep. Those get crossed out and leave us with just this y hanging out over here. So that y drops down. Then we find that common denominator between these two so we can add them. Then we add after we change that second fraction. Ready to go on? Okay. Now we have 1/5 times y equals 2. If I am solving for this, I have to do the opposite. What's going on in this equation right now? Multiplying. So we're going to have to divide. If I divide by 1/5, those are going to cancel out my 1/5 on the left-hand side. And in order to divide, I have to flip and multiply. You bet I do. If I flip over the fraction 1/5, it becomes what? 5 over 1, which they have just written as a 5. So y equals 10. Y equals 10.
It actually doesn't seem hard.
It's not hard. It's not yet.
Yep.
Is everybody ready to go on to the next one?
Yeah.
No, but I guess.
5/7 b equals 25. Again, the 5/7 and the b are, so we have to, and in order to divide, we flip and multiply.
That last one we did was 1/5 y equals 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I put that wrong.
Ah, shoot.
Do we have to take the 7?
Okay, do we have to what? The reason we do not have to multiply the 7 by 25 is because if I put a 1 underneath this 25, what can I do here? I could multiply 25 times 7. It's a big number. I can cross cancel. 25 and 5 have a common factor of 5, so I can cross those 5s out. This 25 becomes what? The 5 on the bottom becomes 1. The 25 becomes a... What's 25 divided by 5? So now instead of 25 times 7, I can just take 5 times 7. How much? 35. So B equals 35.
What? Okay.
Okay?
Sorry.
Nope, it's okay. Do you want me to talk through it again?
No. Somewhere I did something wrong. Oh, I did flip. Oh, I did. But I had the 35 on the bottom. So I have 1/35.
35 on the bottom.
Because wouldn't you have 5/7 divided by 25 over 1?
5/7.
And then when you flip it, the 25 goes to the bottom, right?
You flip the fraction that's on bottom. So you flip the
Right.
7,
So
5/7, not the...
So I had 5/7 divided by 25 over 1.
Okay, but you need to have 25 over 1 divided by 5/7.
So I needed to have the 5/7 over here.
Yes.
Okay. Now I know it. I got the same thing, but in a different.
In a different way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So when you bring that over, the one that's by the equal sign stays there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the other one has to go on the outside of it. Example 4. Example 4 says we have 3/4 x equals a negative 1/8. 3/4 and x are multiplying, so we're going to divide. In order to divide, we flip and multiply. What's the reciprocal of 3/4? 4/3. So we're multiplying that times 4/3. If I'm going to multiply these, I can multiply straight across, or I can cross cancel my 8 and 4. Make it a little bit easier. 8 becomes a
2.
or
4, yeah.
a, yeah, I said 8 becomes a 2. Yep. 4 becomes a 1. Multiply straight across. I have 1 times 1 is, and 2 times 3 is. Is that my final answer? Why not, Valeria? Because it's a negative.
Got it.
Five x equals a negative 3/4. 5 and x are. So we have to, and in order to divide, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. So I multiply both sides times 1/5. When I do that, I multiply straight across. Is there anything to cross cancel before I multiply on this one? Nope. So when I multiply straight across, I get negative 3/20. Please. Okay, now we get a little bit more difficult. We are adding these two fractions. In order to add these fractions, we have to have a common denominator. Our common denominator is, no,
it's 8.
8. They're going to show you a new way to solve these. When you have a variable in your fraction, if we take the whole thing, we're talking the whole thing, all the way over to the other side of the equal sign, times that least common denominator, you're going to get rid of your fractions. Okay? And they just become normal numbers to work with. So if we multiply y over 8 times 8, that becomes what? Think about this as with a 1 underneath it. We're multiplying. We can
Times 8.
We can cross cancel those 8s out, right? Then we just have a y over 1, which is the same as just a y. So we have just a y hanging out there after we do that. Now I'm multiplying my second fraction times 8 over 1. Cross cancel again. Okay. My 8 becomes a, and my 4 becomes a. So on the bottom I have 1 times 1, and on the top I have 2 times 3. 6. And then on this side of the equal sign, I'm still multiplying by that 8, because I had to take it all the way through my equation. 8 times 2 is 16. So now we have a whole new equation to solve without any fractions in it. Okay, we have the simple problem of y plus 6 equals 16. Sure. Huh? Subtract 6 from each side. Okay, I need to catch up on my notes real quick. So after I subtract 6 from each side, my y equals what? Y equals 10. So by using that least common denominator and multiplying it clear through your equation, even past that equals sign, we can get rid of fractions. You don't have to deal with those fractions anymore. Okay? Maybe. Is everybody ready for the next example? Oh, just kidding. So now it tells you the steps of what we just did. So if there is fractions in your problem, multiply both sides of your equation by that least common denominator. If parentheses are there, use the distributive property. Combine any like terms on each side of that equation. Use the addition property of equality to rewrite the equation so that the variables are all on one side. That just means move them across, right? Move everything across that equals sign so your variables are on one side, your constants are on the other. Divide both sides by any coefficients you might have. Just means that if it's 2x, we're dividing both sides by x. And then finally check your equation. So here is our example. Fractions and variables. What is our least common denominator for 2 and 5? Pardon me? 10. So we're going to take this whole equation times the number 10. So if I have 10 over 1 times y over 2, I can cross cancel here. That's going to make it a little bit easier. When I cross cancel those, what do I end up with? 5. Then I have 10 over 1 times y over 5.
No, I was just a step ahead, sorry.
So if I put a 1 underneath here and I multiply it times this first fraction, what do I end up with? Can I cross cancel here? Absolutely. That's going to give me what? 2. So that's going to give me a 2y. And then I also have to take my last fraction times that 10 over 1. Can I cross cancel anything there before I multiply? Okay. What am I going to cross cancel? And over here it would be the 10 and the 2. The 10 becomes a 5. Oh, what is 3 times 5? 15. So my new equation, which is going to be easier to work with, is 5y equals 2y plus 15. So now I just have an equation like we've been working with whole numbers where I need to solve for that variable. So I want to get all my y's to one side of the equal sign and my whole numbers, my constants, to the other side. What am I going to do to make that happen? Well, they're adding right now. So I'm going to subtract 2 y's from both sides, which I would write underneath, but they like to write next to each other. If I subtract 2 y's from this side over here, what am I left with? 3 y's. These 2 y's are going to cancel each other out, so that leaves me what over here? And my final step is to Divide by 3, so y equals what?
5.
We're dividing. Don't forget to divide by 3. Y equals 5. So by multiplying that least common denominator through, we can turn these fractions into whole numbers. One more. What do you notice about this next problem that the rest of them did not have? The rest of them had that this one doesn't have. An equal sign. This one is just an expression, not an equation. So when I am done solving it, am I going to have an answer? No. No, I am not going to be able to solve this. I can only simplify it because it is only an expression. What is my common denominator between 10 and 3? 30. So let's take the whole thing times 30. So if I am writing this on my paper, I'm going to show you how I write it. So that way you can just see. And I put those in some parentheses, and then I add my second fraction times 30. Oh, except that should be a minus sign, not a plus sign. So what do I have that I can cancel out here on my first set of fractions? 30 and 10. This will be a, and the bottom will become a. 3 times 9 is, what do I have that I can cancel here? 30 and 3. The 3 becomes a, and the 30 becomes a. When you,
If you take 3 into 30, doesn't it become a 10?
yeah, thanks, Miss Todd.
Up on the second one.
Right there. That should be a 10. That should be a 10. My bad. So when you're multiplying these times that number, you should always be able to cross cancel something. There's 30. 10. Why do they still have a 30 on the bottom? She asks.
I canceled out everything on the bottom.
So why did they still have a 30 on the bottom? Why did they just multiply by 3 instead of 30?
Is that what they're saying is the final answer? That's how I did my calculation.
Like this?
Yeah. But then I saw you did mine like that, so I just
Well, our least common denominator is 30, so we have to multiply each fraction by 30, which is 30 over 1, not 3 over 3 and 10 over 10. I'm going to say they messed up. Because Mrs. Todd and I both got the same answer. Ooh.
Versus,
But they didn't have a common denominator. They used 3 and 10, which yes equals 30, but you can't separate it out like that, right?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll do some more research into that.